r/AskReddit. Ex-vegans, why did you start eating meat again? I still eat mostly vegetarian food and have done all my life. However, my husband was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis and celiac, which means that a high fiber / lower iron diet is not an option, and a lot of the substitutes aren't gluten free. More often than not, when he has meat I'll leave it or have the veggie equivalent, but there are just not enough hours in the day to make 2 separate lasagnes and sauce, etc. Username checks out. Got a genetic illness which makes me permanently anemic. My body only absorbs a tiny amount of iron from food, and that amount is burned pretty fast. Turns out it doesn't help to cut that tiny amount as well. Also, I didn't replace the meat, I just left it out, so I basically ate less food. Edit. The genetic mutation I have is called thalassemia. Specific type, thalassemia beta intermedia. It's pretty common, especially in Mediterranean people. Usually only severe cases are properly diagnosed, since you can't really do more than iron infusions, blood transfusions, etc. Edit. Since some of you don't get it, iron supplements don't work. I get a lot of iron infusions. I need meat to get a lot of iron in me, so I can absorb that minimal amount, because my doctor wants me to absorb as much as I can from food. I avoid processed meat, it's usually just a rare beef steak for me. AI, my fellow Mediterranean iron deficient redditor. You put hyphens everywhere but where they're needed. I was on a diet for health reasons. When I was told I was allowed to eat meat again, my fridge started looking like a Mexican fever dream. I want to eat that dream. I'm still as veggie as possible, but I moved to a country where is 10,000% harder to be vegan, Japan. This is mostly due to not knowing a ton of Japanese and the fact that there is fish or meat in so many restaurant foods, and the culture here isn't like in America, where you can ask for items to be removed or substitutions. Not that my Japanese ability would allow me to do that anyway. Even the sauces, like oyster sauce, they're everywhere. I feel you. I'm not vegan, but I can imagine your struggles. The food in Japan was so good, though. That too. And it's pretty much guaranteed to be in every soup stock, because they're usually either pork based or seafood based, dashi. And yes, the food is so good. I usually just give the meat to other people and eat extra rice or noodles. I love me some carbs. I've heard some strict vegans are okay with shellfish because they don't have a central nervous system. Mollusks, like clams, oysters, etc. I've met plenty of vegans and they definitely have a central nervous system. r/vegan in Japan. I have no idea if this will help, but know it exists, probably for most countries too. What's a vegan in Japan? I was using veganism as a guise for an eating disorder for well over a year. When I finally realized I was in trouble, after losing 80 pounds, I went and bought lamb chops and devoured them. Also therapy. Same here. Restrictive prep, heavy diets, and disordered eating are a perfect storm. I did this with keto. It got so bad I was only having 1 meal and a coffee a day while boxing. Smart. While your opponent is watching your right hand, you splash them with the coffee in your left. My aunt was a vegetarian for health reasons. The day she got diagnosed with cancer, she went to In-N-Out. Similarly, my nan, 75-year-old, was vegetarian, but a few days after she lost her daughter, my mum, to cancer, I saw her eating a pork pie. I was horrified and asked her what she was doing. She said she didn't believe in God anymore, so who cared? Update. Since a few asked, my nana was a Christian and believed in God. Her fav animals were pigs. She believed in being kind to animals, hence the vegetarianism, and being a good person would get you into heaven, so refused to eat meat on that basis of staying good with God. She's still obviously kind to animals, but she no longer believes that following the rules by the book will do her any favors anymore. She's 80 now, and I could tell you all sorts of crazy stuff about her. She's the best nana in the world. I love her dearly. I mean, if I was her, I'll do the same thing. I wouldn't really give a fuck about meat if I'm dying anyways. Well, we're all dying anyway. Yeah, but she's like the Usain Bolt of dying. I feel like so many people spend so much time treating their bodies like temples, thinking they will live forever, that they forget to live in the now. I could be hit by a drunk driver tomorrow and all that healthy living would all be for naught. Live in the now, but with a dose of moderation. and people would live just about as long as if they ate nothing but healthy things. Edit. Apparently some of you'll need reading comprehension lessons and stop inferring things I never said. The takeaway from my comment should be stop taking diet too seriously. Eat well the majority of the time and stay active, but don't be afraid to splurge once in a while. That is once a week, once a month, whatever works, on that greasy pizza place you love. Mental health is just as important as bodily health. If you are happy eating vegan / plant-based / vegetarian, more power to you. A lot people aren't. Everything in moderation including moderation. I was vegan for a year when I lived in a big city that had lots of inexpensive options for what one could eat. When I moved to a small town in beef country, the cost of good produce quadrupled, as did the cost of meat substitutes. I quickly learned that if I didn't eat whatever I could get my hands on, I would starve, so I started eating meat again. Some people say food deserts aren't real. They are. There are food deserts in my city. People with no transportation buy what they can get. We are several communities that only have convenience stores within walking or biking distance. No public transportation in my neck of the woods, unless you are disabled. Food deserts are such a huge problem and I'll yell about it real quick. Food deserts are not that there is no food available at all. Food deserts are that there is no legitimate grocery store for fresh produce / protein available. McDonald's and 7-Eleven being around is still a food desert. Places with these issues are often disproportionately poor or minority, forcing them to rely on fast and junk food, skyrocketing health problems in their communities, which they cannot afford healthcare to resolve or handle. This means that the poor or minority communities suffering through a food desert often will have high rates of other diseases like diabetes, high mortality rates from complications that in another community are far more common in an older person who could perhaps afford it. This plays into generational wealth as well, incurring medical debt, children never learning better food habits because there was no options putting them in the same cycle, affecting job prospects as they age and need time off coping with their inevitable health issues at a younger age than normal for someone not in a food desert. Anyone who is vegan / vegetarian and shames poor people for having to eat what they have available, or who says food deserts aren't a thing should be punched in the face and made to live in a food desert on a low income budget for a year. Sorry, I'll get off the soapbox, this just makes me so fucking mad. Edit. Thank you for people pointing out difference between food swamp / desert. I should clarified further on my little soapbox rather than simplified. Also holy crap, there's a ton of y'all. Thanks for supporting my small angry TED talk. Please support your local small non-profit organizations who work tirelessly to combat these issues and be mindful of your own individual food waste. Donate and volunteer what you can. And don't be afraid to reach out to organizations in your area to see where your help may be needed most. They'll always appreciate it. Edit 2. I'll be turning notifications off here as I think there's enough people in the thread to get around to questions and you're killing my phone battery. Thank you for the awards, but please donate instead. I was traveling in Africa. Edit. This part of the trip happened to be in Zambia. Not that the specific location really matters for the point of the story, and stayed in a small village off the beaten track. I had just arrived, and as the matriarch of my host family was showing me to my room and helping me get settled in, her boys were out back slaughtering a goat for me. I couldn't turn down that meal because that goat represented a substantial part of the family's assets. The whole experience made me realize that the social constructs around sharing food are far more important to me than what the food is. If someone is serving it, I will eat it with gratitude. Edit. Yes, my stomach did not handle it very well. That said, my stomach was having difficulty anyway. There were unspeakable things done to the pit latrine. Edit. No, I would not knowingly eat human flesh. Fortunately, societal taboos on this are much more universal than are taboos related to eating goat. That's what the Dalai Lama does. When given a choice, he chooses vegan. If he's a guest, he honors the host by accepting what is served. He is a pretty cool dude, yeah. This is also what the Buddha himself did. He was mostly vegetarian, but would accept meat prepared for him. Not me, but my brother-in-law went vegan for a stretch. One of his pet causes is donating blood. As soon as he's able to, he's down at the blood clinic donating again. Anyway, on a vegan diet, his blood iron levels got too low to donate blood. So it was back to meat for him. But his daughter, my niece, is still vegan, and it's driving them nuts, because she'll only eat those vegan chicken nuggets, and they're getting pricey. A lot of people who donate blood frequently get low iron just from that. I go every 3 months. Women have to wait 87 days, at least where I live. I think men is like 50 or so days, and a nurse told me she was shocked I wasn't anemic just from the fact that I've been going like clockwork for the past 3 years and I'm vegetarian. I went through a bad breakup last year and was eating not very much / eating mostly junk for about a month, and then went to donate blood and my iron was exactly at the cutoff it needed to be, and that was the closest I've come in 3+ years to becoming ineligible to donate. That's funny because the last time I tried to donate before going vegan, my iron was slightly too low. But after going vegan, my iron was well above the threshold for donating. That's because I learned more about nutrition when going vegan and know what I need to eat. It's very passive, though. You probably went vegan the right way, not the hip way. Laughs in a note. There are extremes in all directions. I became vegetarian specifically to fuel an active eating disorder. When I got on the path to recovery, I started eating meat again. I wanted to see if it made me sick. I've since eaten it here and there, but it's not often. I was vegan, food and otherwise, for near a decade. I'm planning on going back, because I can honestly say that I've not been missing out. It's possible to veganize about anything these days. I was vegan for 3 years and had gone home to my community, which is tremendously poor. To have cold cuts and a bag of Doritos is a luxury. My aunt who was going blind made a family feast and everyone came, and she made a very traditional lamb stew. My heart broke when I thought of how much of her income she must have spent to make this possible, and felt like a completely entitled outsider when I told them I was vegan. They couldn't comprehend, when food is so hard to come by, why anyone would choose to not eat any protein available to keep from being hungry. Being vegan comes from a first world position of entitlement. It is a luxury to choose what you eat when so many eat whatever is available, not out of an ethical decision, but out of necessity. Did you eat the lamb stew anyway? I totally understand you ethically don't think eating animals is right, but I can tell from your post you also very much care for your family's feelings. It must have been a difficult, conflicting situation for you. For a lot of people, transitioning back to meat has to be done gradually, or they can get pretty gnarly cramps while their digestive system tries to work out the logistics of a delivery it wasn't expecting. I imagined the intestines sitting there with a clipboard telling the stomach that it must have been a wrong delivery while flipping through the papers. Hair loss and health issues got worse. I'm fine now. I was vegan for a year due to wanting to eat clean and it backfired. I lost a lot of weight, to the point that people asked if I was okay. I was tired and had low energy. I ended up being anemic. I slowly ended up getting to a point that I started eating meat again. Your experience certainly reflects mine. We went vegan and involved our doctor in an effort to ensure we were doing it right. We tried a vegan lifestyle many years ago when our kids still lived at home, and my husband and younger daughter thrived on it, while our older daughter and I struggled with vitamin deficiencies and borderline anemia, and we wanted to be certain we were doing it right this go around. We had blood work drawn to measure nutrient levels, cholesterol, blood sugar, etc. Then we charted our food for a year. 3 blood draws in, and doc, who praised our menus, pulled the plug as my iron levels and some nutrients plummeted. I wanted this to work as we were committed to eating for planetary health, and my hubby, an amateur chef, learned vegetarian cooking and made delicious meals. His body, as usual, thrived in veganism. Mine absolutely did not. I keep reading people who say that going without animal products is healthful for everyone, but twice I tried, and, despite our diet being signed off on by medical experts, failed. Once my nutrient levels were restored, we began reducing animal products in our diet, and I'm being monitored as we explore this option, but we just began in January, so I don't have results yet. Not vegan but vegetarian. I was vegetarian for a good 4 years. Once I hit the 4-year mark, energy was at an all-time low. My whole body felt weak, and the kicker, I had very frequent nosebleeds. It was so often I was used to it for a while. Eventually the nosebleeds came to be too much, and I started eating meat again. Then the nosebleeds stopped altogether. I haven't had a single nosebleed thus far. Mind you, I quit being vegetarian 2 years ago. I'm a vegan, but I'm on my annual cheat year. Wait. Hold up.